Hey, what's up? I am MuchelleB, and this video is for people who feel like they are just getting bored with life. So maybe your days feel like they mainly consist of you checking Facebook to see if you've been tagged in any new memes, and then sighing in disappointment when you have not been tagged in any new memes, and then checking Netflix to see if there's anything new, and then sighing in disappointment when there is nothing new. And then in between that, there's some sleep, there's some work, and there's eating. You have no motivation, you feel like you're stuck in a rut, and you just feel generally bored with life. I feel you, we've all been there. So this video is all about what to do when you start to feel bored with life, what actions you can actually take to stop feeling bored with life. Whether you're just starting to feel like you're in a bit of a rut, or you're in like a deep pit of just like, God, life is so same. The first thing that you can do is journal to problem solve. So expressive journaling, I have a few mixed feelings about it. I feel like it can leave you just ruminating on bad feelings and just dwelling on stuff that you otherwise wouldn't have dwelt. If you're going to try journaling, especially when you're going through a tough time, I would suggest journaling to problem solve. So give yourself 15 minutes to write about however you're feeling on paper. You feel really bored with life because of ABC. You hate your work, you're feeling distant from your friends, you're feeling distant from your partner. Whatever it might be, chuck it all on paper. Then give yourself 15 minutes to actually read over what you've written, try to identify the patterns, try to identify what the issues are, what's going wrong, where you're looking at situations in a way that may not be healthy. Then move on to journaling for another 15 minutes to figure out what you can do to move forward in this situation. Now I know that this exercise might feel a little bit rudimentary and you might feel like you won't get anywhere doing it. One thing I would recommend if that's how you feel is to look at it from another person's perspective. So I did a course on Skillshare where a lady actually put pictures of thought leaders up around her bathroom, and whenever she had a problem, she would look at those thought leaders, those people that she admired, and think, how would so-and-so solve this problem? So how would Brene Brown solve this issue? How would Tim Ferriss look at this issue? What would Marie Forleo do? How would this person that I admire pull themselves out of this place of just being bored with life? I think that's probably one of the most helpful things you could do in this situation, because often when you're bored with life, you've thought about how bored you are with life. You may have chucked up a few ideas of how you can stop being bored with life, and even the act of thinking about why you're bored with life and trying to plan to get out of it may feel boring to you, depending on how far you are into this rut. So think about anyone that you admire the thought process of, and then start to journal from their point of view and think, how would so-and-so deal with this? It might even be someone that you know. The second thing that you can do is try a life experiment. So the last time that I was bored with life, I tried a 29 days of meditation challenge, which I will link to in the description below if you didn't watch the video. I really enjoyed doing that challenge, and it just made me concentrate on something new when everything felt so same. So pick one life experiment, whether it be meditating every day, reading 20 pages of a book every day, going vegan, minimizing social media. Anthony from Break the Twitch, who is a YouTuber that I really like, made a video all about life experiments that I would recommend. I will link it in the description below. The next thing to do is make sure that you are stretching yourself. If you're not stretching yourself in some way, shape, or form, there is a great reason that you're bored. If you truly want to be growing, you always need to be stepping slightly out of your comfort zone. I have a very solid bubble of comfort in my life. I'll be the first person to admit that. It's very clear what sits inside of my bubble, what sits outside of my bubble. For example, sitting inside of my bubble is hanging out with 3 people that I know quite well and feel totally comfortable in front of. Sitting outside of my bubble is going to a networking event with no one that I know there in an environment that I'm not familiar with. Yet when I can, I've made conscious decisions to go to networking events surrounded by people that I don't know in environments that I'm not comfortable with. For example, recently I went to a League of Extraordinary Women's event, and they sit you down with 5 people, you talk about your business issues. Or I went to a creatives boot camp which went for a whole weekend, and I think I kind of made friends-ish. I tried. I'm now at the point where I can kind of go to those events and I don't feel like overwhelmingly anxious about it, which for me is quite good. If you've watched my like guide to introvert video, as well as my, did I make a how to make small talk video? I've sort of talked about my feelings around like socially connecting with people. It's just a bit of a struggle. We're getting through it though. More recently, I volunteered like a psycho to run a training session at my work. Public speaking in front of people, something that totally terrifies me, but it's stepping out of my comfort zone, so it's keeping life interesting. It is a fact that stretching yourself to do things that you wouldn't normally do is going to make your life more interesting. So write down a list of little ways that you could be stretching yourself. It doesn't have to be something totally terrifying like public speaking. It could be something like posting in a Facebook group, that you've been joined to for a while and you always creep but you never actually post in. Or uploading an Instagram photo that maybe you wouldn't usually upload. If you're feeling bored with life, start taking little mini baby steps outside of your comfort zone and see how that impacts you. Next up, plan mini adventures. So if you haven't already done this, for 2018, create a list of mini adventures that you want to go on. Maybe you can't afford to travel, but perhaps you can afford to drive to that flower field that's like a 30-minute drive away. Or go to those markets that you've been wanting to go to for forever. Put your mini adventure list somewhere where you're going to see it. So it could even be like the background of your phone, it could be stuck on your wall, it could be in your diary, whatever works for you, just to make sure you don't forget about it as the year slides by. Life is a string of experiences, and if you're spending your time mostly at home watching Netflix or scrolling through Instagram, that's probably why you're feeling really bored with life. And last but not least is get rid of something. Because sometimes in life you need to subtract rather than add. Try subtracting some of the shitty things from your life. So maybe you're in a social media hole where you just feel like you're constantly on social media. Cut social media out for a while. I made a whole video on how to minimize your social media time. I will link that in the description. Maybe you feel like drinking is having a negative impact on your life, so remove that for a while. Maybe you feel like you're surrounded by crap and you need to go through my 30 Days to Simplify challenge, which I'll link in the description. So those are some ideas for how to help yourself when you're feeling bored with life. As a side note, if you feel like you're dealing with something that is more than a rut, seek help. Sometimes having someone that is impartial, that doesn't have pre-existing ideas of how you should live your life or who you are as a person, can be the one thing that will help you the most. If you like this video, I have actually made a video in the past on how to get out of a rut, but I was just really feeling this video idea, so I just put it all down on paper and filmed it. So I'll link that video on the screen somewhere for you to click if you want to watch it after this one. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram, do all of the things. I appreciate you guys so very much, and I will see you soon.